Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It's a Friday, so I guess you can say have a fun Friday, a fantastic Friday. It's a frolicking Friday, ever how you want to say it, but no matter how you say it and how you want to say it, it is a Friday. And I'm also on vacation from work this week, so I hope everybody is enjoying my plethora of Clemson shirts that I've been wearing this week instead of my work uniform. And don't worry, I could take off work for a solid month and probably not wear the same Clemson shirt twice. That's just how many I have. But today is going to be a video for all the college football fans out there. I'm just going to throw out some college football news going on right now because there's so much going on. And I know I said this last week, but I'll say it again. It's amazing how it seems like there's more college football news in the off season than there is during the season. And I know I usually try to, talk about college football news here and there and have videos for college football even during the off season. But there's just so much going on right now that I didn't want to just mention one thing here and one thing there. So I figured I would just do a whole video talking about all the current big time news in the world of college football. And yes, there's some things that I'm not going to mention, not going to bring up because to me they're just not really, not they're not important, just not really a big enough deal to talk about. Any thoughts on this, as always, please feel free to let me know. And as you can tell by the title of the video, we'll start out talking about the SEC being scared. And the only reason I bring that up is because anybody that knows me knows that I will take a shot at the SEC any chance I get. To me, SEC stands for sorry excuse for a conference. But in case you don't know this, Tennessee was originally scheduled to play Army this upcoming year, 2022, in the opening game of the season. Well, they canceled the game against Army and picked up Ball State. Why'd they do that? Because they don't want to lose. We're talking about the same team that lost to Georgia State, the same team that just lost to BYU a couple of years ago. So they canceled Army because there's a pretty good chance that they could lose that game to pick up Ball State. They did it because they're scared. They're supposed to open up next season by playing BYU. And of course, like I just said, they just lost to them a couple of years ago, so they canceled that game and picked up Virginia. Now, of course, I'm sure you're going to read all kinds of different articles and stories and all that stuff as far as why Tennessee canceled the game. And the reason why they canceled the game is because they were scared they're going to get beat. Not that it matters to me because I'm not a fan of Tennessee. I really don't care who they play and if they win or not. But it's amazing to me how Tennessee canceled Army so they wouldn't get beat. And they canceled BYU so they wouldn't get beat. And nobody is talking about it. You see a little bit of talk here and there, and that's the end of it. Had this been any team in any other conference that was playing two non-conference games against an SEC team and they canceled the game, you would never hear the end of it. But since an SEC team done it, we don't talk about it. So yes, an SEC team is scared. So when the SEC cancels a game, it's not a big deal. But if anybody else cancels a game against the SEC, then it's a big deal. And the Pac-12 has already decided to eliminate divisions. And I know just last week I talked about the ACC was wanting to do that. And I said, would anybody else follow suit? And I even mentioned in that video that the Pac-12 needed to because nobody cares about the Pac-12. Nobody watches the Pac-12. And a week later, they've done it. They have eliminated divisions. Of course, they're not going to do it this year because this year's schedule is already out. But they're trying to do it as early and soon as next year, and they probably will. So don't be surprised if you see the Big Ten follow suit. And, of course, the Big 12 can't because the Big 12 doesn't have divisions, so it's just one big conference. They can't do that. I don't know if the SEC will. I don't think they will, but they might, but I don't think they will. And then I want bold predictions. And what I mean by that is I want a bold prediction, but I want it to be something that's feasible, something that could actually happen. And I'll give you an example. I know where I live, I know a lot of Georgia fans and a lot of Clemson fans. And I know a lot of Georgia fans that still hate Clemson because they were rivals back in the 80s. By the same token, I know a lot of Clemson fans that hate Georgia because they were rivals back in the 80s. Doesn't make no sense to me. I know they played last year and they're going to play again coming up here right around the corner, but they don't play every year. Playing somebody every 5 or 6 years does not make them your rival. But now they played pretty much every year back in the 80s. So you still have a lot of fans of both schools that still hate the other school because they were rivals 40 years ago. I don't want any Clemson fan, just because you hate Georgia, saying, oh, Georgia's going to go 3-9. That's not possible. By the same token, I don't want any Georgia fans, because you hate Clemson, saying, oh, Clemson's going to go 4-8. We know that's not happening. Don't come on here and say, well, Bama's going to go 7-5. We know that's not happening. So I want bold predictions, but I want bold predictions on something that can actually happen. Like to say, whoever wins the Big 12 this year, it doesn't matter. No team in the Big 12 will win 10 games. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not. But could it happen? Yes, because nobody thinks Oklahoma State is going to be as good as they were last year again this year. And Oklahoma has gone through so many changes, nobody thinks they're going to be a top 5 team except for the diehard Sooner fans. And Baylor is never going to gain any respect no matter what Baylor does. So is that going to happen? Probably not. But could it happen? Yes. So I want some bold predictions from all the college football fans out there, but I want bold predictions that are actually feasible, that are actually possible. Don't just throw something out there that you know good and well ain't going to happen. Don't be Skip Bayless. Don't be Stephen A. Smith. Actually give bold predictions on something that could actually happen. I'd love to see anybody's bold prediction on some bold things you think might happen as we head into the 2022 season. And there's a war of words right now going on between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. Quite frankly, as an outsider looking in, I'm amused by it. To me, it's very, very entertaining. But Nick Saban said that Jimbo Fisher bought every player in the Texas A&M recruiting class this past season, which we know Texas A&M just had the best recruiting class in the history of mankind. Now, the irony of this is that Nick Saban has been cheating at Alabama for 15 years. So it's funny to hear a coach that's been cheating all this time all of a sudden get mad because of what another coach is doing. The only difference is if Jimbo Fisher did pay all these players with the name, image, likeness thing, it's okay now. So he's not really breaking rules like Saban was when Saban was just flat out cheating and everybody knew about it and people have been talking about it for years, but for whatever reason, Nick Saban can do whatever he wants to and nobody says anything. Just last year, they gave Bryce Young basically all that money. What was it, over $1 million maybe, in name, image, likeness before he ever stepped on the campus, and nobody said a word. But now Nick Saban wants to talk about Jimbo Fisher doing it. So to me, there's some irony in that, and let's don't be crazy. Even Bama fans know that Nick Saban's been doing it. You look at Nick Saban's career at Michigan State, he didn't win. At LSU, he finally won one national championship, and before he could fall apart and fall off a cliff, he left. He went to the NFL, he sucked, he left. He goes to Alabama the first couple of years, he didn't do a whole lot. And anybody that's ever been to not just Tuscaloosa, but anywhere in Alabama can tell you that there is nothing in that state that makes you want to go to school there. So we know why all their players go to school there. But it's funny that Nick Saban wants to talk about somebody else doing it like he don't do it. The only reason Nick Saban's mad about it is because he's been doing it all these years and getting by with it. But now that it's okay to do it, he knows that Texas A&M has more money than Bama does. So he knows his winning days are going to come to an end if this doesn't stop, because Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher can pay these players a lot more than he or Alabama can. Not that it matters, because Jimbo Fisher can get all these players and he'll still go 9-3. But to me, there's some irony in a coach who's been cheating for over a decade wanting to talk about another coach who's cheating. And he's only doing it because he knows his winning days are over with if this doesn't come to an end. And then something that I just thought was interesting is that Dan Mullen is now a high school football coach. Now, you want to talk about people being wrong on somebody? And I said from the get-go that Dan Mullen should have never left Mississippi State. He had it made. He could have stayed there and went 7-5, 8-4 for 50 years, and they'd never fired him. But he got greedy. He left. He went to Florida, and there was numerous programs around that time that had job openings that were mad that their team, whoever it was, passed on Dan Mullen. And now you're talking about a guy just a few years later that's coaching in high school. Now, I do think he'll eventually get back in the college game, but will it be as a coordinator or will it be as a coach? And if it is as a coach, will it be at a group of 5 school or will it be at a Power 5 school? But it's amazing to me how fast Dan Mullen fell off the cliff. But now we got to watch out for his wife, because anybody that knows anything about Dan Mullen, you know that when he was at Mississippi State and Florida, his wife would kiss every single player on the lips before every game as they were getting off the bus. Me personally, I wouldn't have liked that, but I guess Dan was okay with it. But now, is she still going to do that? Because now these players are teenagers, because they're high schoolers. So that would be kind of corrupt and wrong. So we got to sit back and see what happens with that. And then we got to talk about Jerry Bohannon. Now, Jerry Bohannon used to be the quarterback at Baylor. And when he played, he was really, really good. He didn't lose his job because he struggled. He lost his job because he got hurt. And when he got hurt, the next quarterback came in and was just as good, and the Baylor offense looked even better. So now he's transferred to South Florida. Should be a good thing for Bulls head coach Jeff Scott, because when he left Clemson as the co-OC to go to South Florida, a lot of people thought that was a great hire and he was going to be a great coach. So far, it's been the opposite. So far, he's been terrible. So maybe Jerry Bohannon can be what it takes to get him from winning 2 or 3 games to at least winning 5 or 6. I think if he can win 5 or 6, he should be safe. And speaking of quarterbacks transferring, former quarterback of Virginia Tech and North Dakota State, Quincy Patterson, is transferring to Temple. So hopefully, for his sake, he will have a good season and he will be their starting quarterback for Temple. He was one of those kids that was highly recruited out of high school, and it's just never worked out for him. So hopefully, for his sake, it will work out now with Temple. And then the South Carolina Gamecocks have added Freddie Kitchens to their coaching staff. Now, Freddie Kitchens has been a coach for a long time, many different levels. Now, he was recently, just a handful of years ago, the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Of course, that didn't work out, but nobody is successful when they coach the Browns. So that should be a definite good thing for the Gamecocks and their coaching staff. He's got a lot of years of experience at many different levels in many different coaching positions. And Texas is mad about playing Alabama at noon. And I don't understand the reason behind this, unless they just think we're Texas, so automatically we should be in prime time, because I know it's an 11 a.m. kickoff local time for Texas, but it's also an 11 a.m. local kickoff time for Alabama, because both schools are located in the central time zone. So it's not like they can say Bama's getting an edge because it's still morning time for us, because it's still morning time for them too. So I'm not really sure what the reason is. Texas has to realize that they're Texas, but they're not anything like what they think they are. They still think they're the Texas from 20 years ago who's a top 5 program. They're not. They're lucky to win 7 games, and they'll be lucky to win 8 games this year. You don't get to be in prime time just because the name on your jersey and your helmet. You got to earn that spot. And they ain't earned that spot in 15 years. And then the last thing I want to mention is former Clemson quarterback Tyson Pumachan has announced he is going to Georgia Tech. Probably a good thing for him because it's so late in the offseason now. He just now announced where he's going, and it's not that far of a drive from Clemson to Atlanta, so he ain't got to go that far. And Georgia Tech really doesn't have a lot of good depth. They've got depth at quarterback, but not good depth at quarterback. So he may end up going there and getting some playing time if Jeff Sims is not any better this year than he was last year. And if you look at Georgia Tech's schedule looks like it was made by somebody who hates Georgia Tech. They'll be lucky to win 3 games. So Tyson Pumachan will probably get playing time whether Jeff Sims is any good or not, because more than likely in every game they play, they're going to be beat by the middle of the third quarter. Again, any thoughts on this, please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Why did the Oreo go to the dentist? It lost its filling. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.